Because of our learning should be in Tennessee. We're going to start Tes Vav. Oh, one more thing. I want to dedicate the shir to for Shleima Farchana Basara. It's a friend of my parents in Sfas. She's not doing well, so she should have before Shleima. So we're going to start 15b. Tanan Hassam. Let's start over there in the Mishnah. Over there means in Masechta Tamid. Rashi tells us something interesting here. He says, we had a sort of like an odd Gemara before. He says that where the Gemara says that the author of Masechtas Yoma is Reb Shimon Shamitzvah. Like, the Mishnah doesn't tell me who Rebbe took it from. Rebbe arranged the Mishnayos, but whose notebook did he use? So we assume he used Reb Meir's notebooks. Stam Mishnah's Reb Meir. That's what we assume. So he doesn't say anything else. It's probably Reb Meir. It says Yoma was Reb Shimon Shamitzvah. Okay. But based on that, we say, you know what? Let's go to, yesterday I was saying it was Masechtas Tamid. I was mistaken. The Masechtas Midas is going to be someone else. It's going to be Reb Elazar ben Yaakov. And that's, so we're getting into this. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with Yom Kippur. It has to do with who's the author of a different Masechta that we didn't mention. Yes, he's here. Okay, so Amar Lahem HaMamuna. The Mamuna, which is the person in charge, the appointed person that's in charge of the Beis HaMikdash, Rashi tells us it's the Sagan Kohen Gadol, the deputy Kohen Gadol. He says to them, to the Kohenim, go bring a sheep from the chamber of the sheep. Apparently, they had 6 sheep that were always there, that were ready to be used for Karbanis. They always had 6 available. They would check it for 4 days, I think. And the Lishkas Atlaim, that room where they kept the sheep, was in the northwest corner. We're talking about the Beis HaMikdash here. The Beis HaMikdash was a room that was on the north side of the Azara. So here, this is the Heichal, all right? So over here, on this side, somewhere down here, on this side would be the Beis HaMikdash, and the outer room, the room out closest to the this is on the Tzvainis Maravis, the outer one, the north, which is outside, closer to the Heichal. That would be the room where the Tzilim were kept, on the west side, northwest. Then it says, there were 4 rooms that were there. Achas Lishkas Atlaim. One of them was the Lishkas Atlaim, the room that we're talking about. Achas Lishkas Achisamis. One of them was the room where they kept seals, which would be a modern day token. If someone wanted to buy the flour for the Nesachim or the different things that he needed that come along with the Karbanis, so he would go pay for it in the Lishkas Achisamas. They would give him a token. A Chaysim is a seal, which is a token. They give him this like clay seal, and then he would take it and pick it up by the other locations where they had it. Like this, they didn't have to deal with the money. The money was dealt with before. Then there was a room which was called Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash was a small room which is in the larger room, Beis HaMikdash. So yeah, like the Mendy and the Golem, he said, Mendy, how do you spell New York? So he says the city of the state. So the Beis HaMikdash was a room which was inside a larger room called the Beis HaMikdash. So this is Lishkas Beis HaMikdash, and that was the room which is called Beis HaMikdash. There was another room where they made the showbread. Okay, so far it didn't tell us anything. We have 4 rooms there. what we're going to look at here is that we're going to have another Mishnah that is going to contradict this. And in order to resolve that contradiction, we're going to say that it's a different author. Who's the author going to be? It's going to be Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, not Tamid. Masechta Midas is going to be. We just said a Mishnah in Tamid. Now let's go to Varamino. There's a contradiction from Masechta Midas. Over there it says Abra Lishke Sayil Beis HaMaikid. There's 4 rooms. There's 4 rooms in the Beis HaMaikid. Kikitainis Absuches L'Traklin. This is like small doors. Or small kitainis are actually like cubicles, small rooms that open up into a large chamber. 2 of them are holy, and 2 of them are mundane, are not part of the Azara, because it was built into the wall. So that means the ones that were inside the wall were Kodesh, the ones that were outside were Chol. Now, in the room itself, you would have to divide it by a marker that would divide the room to tell you that if you sit over here, there's a problem. If you sit over there, it's okay, because over there you're outside, and here you're inside. It says, "V'roshi pispasin mabdilen bein kodesh l'chol." There were tips of maybe small sticks or something, like sort of maybe it was like the dividers that divide the express lanes or something. Yeah. So that would divide between kodesh and chol. What were the rooms used for? Okay, so here we're going to have a problem. Maravis Deraimis, the southwest is here, Salishkas Talai Carbon. That was the room where they kept the sheep for the carbon. Southwest is where they kept the sheep, which is closer in, correct?
Yeah, so now.
So it's closer in, southwest would be that it's inside the Azara. Yeah, that's considered holy. But that contradicts the Mishnah in Tamid, which says that it was the northwest, which is meant that it was outside the Azara. So we have a contradiction here. Okay, Draimus Mizrachis, the southeast. Hilishka Shahayu Aisimba Lechem Apanim. You have a pen? I'll make a picture for it. I don't think they're going to be able to see. Let's try it. So we have over here, this is the north, south, west, and east. Now we're discussing, this is the Mishkas according to Masechtas Tamid, and according to Masechtas Midas, this is Lishkas Talai Carbon. Okay, let's see if I can hold this up for you to see it. Otherwise, I don't know if this is going to work. See what's going on over here? We have two rooms. Anyway, sorry. Okay.
Do the Mishnahs agree on what the rooms were, just the placement? Disagree on?
So, not necessarily. Lechem Apanim is there. The Lechem Apanim is there in both of them. Talai Carbon is in both of them. Alishka said Talayim. But Chisamis we don't have here. And we don't have Lishka Space and Maikit. Yeah. It's not a perfect match. Unless they had multiple purposes, then it would resolve that. Okay. Draimus Mizrachis. Ilishka Shayasim Balechem Apanim. You know what? I have a PDF of Yoma. 1 second, and then I can put it on the thing. No, that's not going to help me. It is. Let's leave it. We got the point. It's a different room. Draimus Mizrachis in the Yeah, but it's going to be too complicated. Okay, we're dealing right now with the two top pictures there. So the southeast, that's the room where they made the showbread. Did we have the showbread? Another one? Yeah. It didn't tell us which one it was. Mizrachis Tvinas, the northeast. The Greeks used the Mizbeach for Avodah Zarah. So they had to dismantle the Mizbeach and rebuild it. So what did they do with the old stones that they put into this room? This was in the northeastern room. They put it in Shemus. Svinus Maravis, what about the north, the northwest? That's the room where they went to the Beis HaTfilah. They went to the mikveh. If a Kayan became tummy in the middle of the night, so in the morning, that they slept in that room, in the Beis HaMikveh room. So he would go to the corner room. There was a tunnel that would take him down into a underground mikveh. Now, that room that we just said, the northwest, which in this Mishnah in Masechtas Midas, it says they would go to the mikveh. That's the room that in Masechtas Tamid was used for the karbanas, lishkas atlaim. Yeah. So if it had multiple purposes, that would be odd. It'd be sheep running around the mikveh, running in and out of the tunnel. So Amar Rav Huna says, no, Mantana Midas. Who's the author of Masechta Midas? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. It's a different author. So it's a machlaikas, and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is the opinion. Okay, now we have to prove that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is the author of Midas, and not just randomly saying that. Okay, let's just say attribute it to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. We have to come up with the reason why we say that. So from now until the bottom of the page, we're going to try to prove that it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Then we're going to have at the end of this, we're going to have either trying to prove that Midas is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, or Tamid is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. There's two interpretations in Rashi. So the rest of this Amud is proving that the answer that Rav Huna gave for the contradiction between where the karbanos is, in a contradiction between Masechtas Tamid and Masechtas Midas, the answer that it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Now we're going to try to prove that Midas is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov based on other Mishnayos. Okay, Ditanan was taught in the Mishnah. Ezras Nashim, the room, the large entrance to the Beis HaMikdash was called the Ezras Nashim. It's a large room with 4 chambers in each corner. How wide was it, and what was it? It was a square. It was 135 amas by 135 amas. That went through the corner, not stopping at the corner room, all the way from wall to wall. Okay. And there were 4 chambers in the corners. You would imagine like this would be a big chandelier in the middle, but it was open on the top. So this was used by the Simchus Beis HaSheva. They built platforms. What were these rooms used for? Well, Dreimus Mizrachis, the southeast. Southeast would mean when you entered into the Beis HaMikdash would be on your left. The first room on your left. He Lishkas and Nazirim, that was the room where the Nazir, it's going to say, Shasham Nazirim Mavashal Meshlamim. Over there, the Nazir would cook his shlamim. The Nazir had an interesting You had to cook the whole ram together or something. Besides for one limb that had to be removed, besides for the an arm or something that had to be removed from it. They would actually have to shave their hair then after their naziris was up, and they would throw it under the fire. It was cooked in a pot, so that wasn't like barbecue taste. Yeah, it was cooked. It wasn't roasted. Mizrachis Tzvainis, the room on your right when you came in to the northeast. That was the room of the wood. Over there, the kainim would stand and they would examine the wood to see if it had worms in it. Any piece of wood that had a worm in it was invalid for the mizbeach. It had to be good wood. They didn't want to use rotten wood for the mizbeach. Yeah, Tzvainis Maravis. When you make a fire for like Baimer, you have to look at the wood. But you'll see if it's rotten or not. So Tzvainis Maravis, I don't know if they did that here. In Israel, it's a big deal, apparently. Tzvainis Maravis, the northwest. That's the room for the Mitzayra. Now, what did the Mitzayra do there? Interestingly, Rashi says that later on, it's going to tell us that the Mitzayra would actually go to the mikveh there. Interesting. It must have been another mikveh. Sheshama Mitzrayim Taiplin B'Shmini, Rashi says. It says B'Pirkin de la Kaman, supposed to be B'Perek de la Kaman. I guess so. Okay, whatever the case is, that was the room for the Mitzayra, and that is the north west. That means when I entered into the Esrus Nashim, it would be on my right side, but it would be the farther room. Maravis Dreimus, the farther room on my left side. What was that? What was that room? Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov shechachti maya mishameshes. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, I forgot what that was used for. Can't remember. Rashi says, based on this, probably he had to be the one that said the other three, because you wouldn't just quote him to say, if he didn't say the other three, you wouldn't just quote someone to say, I don't know what that one is, if he wasn't the one that was talking the whole time. Right? It's just someone doesn't know. So, no one else knows. So why he doesn't know? It must have been that he was the one that was talking, and he got to the fourth one. He says that one I don't remember. So you see, the Mishnayos of Masechta Midas is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. However, Rabbi Shalom Erbahay Naisni Yayin V'Shemen V'Yasin Nekras Lishkas Beishemnaya. This was the room that had the wine and the oil, and it was called the room of the oil. What happened to the wine? Yeah. Okay.
These now are two eyewitnesses.
More? Yeah, apparently Abba Shal and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov were there. Yeah, there's two Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakovs. Rabbi Aaron Hyman. I don't know him. He published the Sefer in 1910. But he wrote, told us Tanaim V'Amaraim. He claims that when the Gemara says, that Mishnah's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kavanaki, that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov's Torah is perfect. It's a small amount, but it's perfect, clear. So it's referring to both Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Yeah. Makes it like a pun. It's like when it says Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, it actually means this one and that one. That's his claim. Thank you. Okay. We also have another proof. It's logical to say that it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the Tanan. It's taught in the Mishnah. All of the walls around the base of Mikdash, or up the base of Mikdash, were all high walls. Except for the eastern wall, because when they did the Paraduma, they didn't do it on the Temple Mount. They did it on the Mount of Olives, Paramishcha. It was done outside the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, Abi Friedman asked me the other day something about the Egla Rufa. So I looked it up in the Ramban. What's the Egla Rufa, where they break the neck of the calf? He says that we have 3 sacrifices that are offered outside the Beis Hamikdash: the goat Zazel, the Para Aduma, and the Egla Rufa. He views it like a sacrifice. Anyway, so whatever the case is, here we have the Kohen burning the para. He's going to see the Heichal at the time of the sprinkling of the blood. So what happens is, you see this doorway right here. He has to be on the mountain opposite that doorway. Now, if the wall was very high, the wall right here was high, he wouldn't be able to see the doorway. Now, how big was that doorway? 60 amas. The height was no, it was 40 amas tall. It was 40 amas tall.
40 amas.
20 amas wide. So ask Piskashal Heifa. I don't know. He has to see we have to see through the whole Beis Hamikdash all the way till there. Now the problem is like this. The problem is that it's a mountain. So there's a door to the entrance of the Azara. There's another door to the entrance of the Ezra's Nashim. So here we have a Mishnah that's telling me that all of those walls and doors needed to be low so he could see over them. The question is, why couldn't he see through them and make them tall? Or whatever. Why couldn't he just see through them? Why do we have to say they have to see over them? So the answer to that is that because to look through, you would end up seeing the steps. Because it's being raised up, it's going in gradation up, like in elevation. It's going up. So you wouldn't be able to look through and actually see the doorway. Sorry?
Which mountain was he doing on?
He was on the Har Hazeisim. And he's looking across to the...
Isn't the Har Hazeisim higher than Har Hazeisim?
Yeah, I guess it depends where. Yerushalayim Harim Savavla. The mountains around Yerushalayim and apparently, unless that's not Yerushalayim. I don't know what Yerushalayim was when David HaMelech said Yerushalayim. Okay. So, it could be right. I guess it depends where on the mountain. So, Utanan, and it was taught in the Mishnah, all of those doorways that were in front of it, they were 20 amas tall, 10 amas wide. Not the Heichal. The Heichal was double that. It was not 10 amas wide, but 20 amas wide. And not 20 amas tall, but 40 amas tall. But all the other doorways were 10 wide and 20 high. Utanan, and it was taught, Lifnimi menu Seirig. Rashi over here tells me that the Seirig is lattice. He actually writes that out. Lamed Tes Shin. Lattice. Not lettuce. He says it's similar to a bed that's made out of strings, but they would make it out of wood. Long and short. That's called lattice. This was a fence that went around the Beis Hamikdash. Utanan, like a chain link fence. Utanan, lefnim mimeno achel. In between the lattice and the wall was an area called the chel. Eser amas. That was 10 amas of an area. There were 12 steps. Now, what we're looking for here is the elevation. Elevation means from sea level. It's supposed to be called relief, right? What do you call from one area to another? We're looking for the elevation of how the door. At what point is going to be the doorway of the Beis Hamikdash? What we want to get is that, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the elevation of the Heichal is going to be, the floor is going to block the first doorway. So when I look through directly, I'm going to see I won't see the doorway, I'm going to see the ground in front of the doorway because of the elevation of the Heichal. We're working our way up the mountain. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, the Mishnah in Midas says that you're looking over the doorway to see into because if you look through the doorway, you would see the floor as it moves up. And we're going to find that the other opinion, the rabbis were told that you will be able to see the doorway through the door. So obviously, the fact that the Mishnah says that you have to look over the doorway means that it's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. The other opinions would say you could look through the doorway. So far, we're holding by 12 steps on its way up. Now, what is the height of each step? Rum Maila Chatziyama. The height is half amma. V'shilcha Chatziyama. And the depth of the step is half amma. What's a half amma? 3 tvachim, I guess. 3 tvachim, about 12 inches, right? No. Let's say 4 inches is a tefach. So about 12 inches. 12 inches height, 12 inches in. So if you have 12 steps, each one is a half amma. So what's the height of the top step? It's 6 ammas, right? Half of it, right? 12 and a half would be 6. So 6 ammas. Okay. We are in the shop. Oh, yeah? There's only 12 steps? Oh. 13 is going to be somewhere else. 13 is going to be somewhere else. So
We know where in the mountain the person would stand.
I don't know. That's a good question.
We could figure out how high an amma is.
Yeah, I think due to weathering, I don't know if it would be exactly the same. I don't know. Are you in do you have earth science in 8th grade?
No.
Oh, missing out. Earth science is fun. Okay, Tesla of Milas. Now we have 15 steps. Eilis miteicha, hayardis miezis Yisrael ezris nashim, rum maila chatziyam, v'shilcha chatziyam. Okay, we're already in the Ezras Nashim, and we're on our way up to the Ezras Yisrael. Remember, we spoke about the 135 ammas room that had the rooms in 4 corners. So that room was 6 ammas higher than the ground beneath it. You had to walk up 12 steps, half amma each, that's 6 ammas. Now, to get from that room to the next area, the next courtyard, you had to go up 15 steps. Well, what's the height of each step? So, chatziyama, rum maila chatziyama, shilcha chatziyama. Again, a half an amma up, half an amma in. So, 15.
In the times like Mar, everyone knew what size an amma was.
We have pictures. Okay, this is what we needed. Okay. I don't know if the light in here is going to allow you to do that. You see what's happening? We're basically working our way up. That's the idea. The detail. Okay. See that? So we're working our way up. Now we'll go. Let it gotta go through the detail.
We're behind you.
Did
The steps.
I don't think it's actually you could do the potion back there.
Yeah.
I don't either.
That's the artist. Okay.
There's 15 there on that one. Less than 1, 2, 3. How also? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. We got scanned.
That's not it. So maybe that's the outer one. So there's 15 ammas, which is going to be a total, if a half amma each is going to be 7.5 ammas. 7.5 plus the first 6 is going to be 13.5. That's where we're holding. So there's 13 ammas and a half elevation. We have to get it to above 20 for this to fit with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Utanan, and it was also taught in the Mishnah. We're already in the Beis Hamikdash, not in the chamber. We're on the floor where there's the Mizbeach, and we're going in between the Mizbeach and the Ulam, which is the front hall of the Heichal. And over there's an area of 22 amas. And you have over there 12 steps. Room Maila Chatzi Amma, Vashilcha Chatzi Amma. Everything is a half amma by a half amma, those steps. Now I have 13 and a half plus 6, which is 19 and a half. It just doesn't cut it, right? Because theoretically, I can still look through the doorway and see the base of the door in a half amma. I could still see the entrance to the Heichal under the door. However, Utinan, but we do have a Mishnah that says, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Eimer, Maila Ha'Yisrael, that if you go back to the Ezus Yisrael, there's one more step that was raised up. There was one more step. It was an amma high. And on it was a platform, like a stage.
Were people still really tall back then?
I don't know.
2 feet is a very high step.
Yeah, an amma would be 2. Yeah, that's a high step. Let's say it's a foot and a half. Yeah, an amma is a high step. Yeah, sometimes they call you up to like say a bracha under the chuppah, and they didn't put like steps there yet, so they have to like climb up. So it's a good point. So so according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, we're holding by one extra amma. Yeah, there's a platform there as well, without the platform. But the one extra amma is going to take us to 20 amas and a half, 20 amas and a half, 19 and a half to 20 amas and a half, which means won't be able to see the door. You have to look over the doorway. Now, if you say that first Mishnah in Masechtas Midas that says all the walls of the Beis Hamikdash were tall, except for the eastern walls, which were all lower than the western walls, so it was like a little odd. All the side walls and the back walls were tall, and the front walls were all short. So that you should be able to see over. That's because the doorway is blocked. But if you say that Mishnah is a Rabbanon, you have a half an amma that you can see the doorway through the doorway of the Heichal, through the other doorways. So this was a long Amud telling us that it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov based on a lot of different proofs. The first proof was the location. Well, the first proof was that we quoted a Mishnah where Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, I forgot which room, what that fourth room was used for. And now we prove it with the height of the walls. Ravad Barava Amar Hamani Rabbi Yehudi. Okay, now there's 2 ways of learning this Gemara. Either Ravad Barava is saying that the Mishnayos of Midas is Rabbi Yehuda, and then the Gemara is going to ask a question on it, and it's going to finish off that it can't be Rabbi Yehuda, it needs to be Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the way we explained. There's another way of saying this, is that really what it means is Hamani, who is the Mishnah in Tamid, that's not Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, that Mishnah would be Rabbi Yehuda. With this, it's going to be a little easier, and Rashi wants to learn it. Hamani Rabbi Yehuda, who is the author? It's Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. See, it doesn't tell us Hamani of what, there's some ambiguity here. It doesn't tell me what it's trying to explain. How do they translate it there in the when it says Hamani? Who is the author? And it says Rabbi Yehuda. Ravada Barava. It's like the last passage before the turn of the page. Ravada Barava says, who is the author of?
The author is sentence.
Yeah, but who is the author of what? Be right before that, before the brisa.
The other one is
Okay, good.
Other Bahaba said, sometimes there's some proof, but it's still possible to interpret the law.
Oh. He's learning the first way. He's learning it the first way. The Steindels of learning. The Hamani, it's not Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov the way you said. It could really be Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. There's another way of doing it, but that's fine. Goes like this. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. Rabbi Yudah Imar Mizbeach Memutzav Mit Bemtza Azara. The Mizbeach, you see, let's say this entrance way of the Azara. Where is the Mizbeach? It could be centered, or it could be to the south. It could be more to the left when you on your way in. There's two opinions. Rabbi Yehuda says it's centered. It was 22 amas. Eser amas keneged pitzli shel hechel. Now the hechel was actually 20 amas, but we're just dividing it by 10 in the center, and then 11 amas on each side. That's our way of dividing it. We could have done 20 in the center and 6 amas on each side. I don't know why we had to do this, because that would have also given me 32. Hey, Keneged Pitzli Hechel Yud Aleph Amal Tzaf and Yud Aleph Amal Adarm, and then 11 on each side. So 11 plus 11 is 22 plus 10 is going to be 32. Nimtze Mizbeach Mechuven Keneged Hechel Ksala. That means that it's exactly in the center. If you want to say that the Mishnah in Midas is Rabbi Yehuda, now the Gemara is asking a question on the way that we're learning it. That Rabbi Ada Barava is telling me that it's not Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov the way you want it. It's really Rabbi Yehuda. But now the Gemara has a question. How could you say it's Rabbi Yehuda? Mizbeach b'emtza azar mi mishkachas la. And according to the Mishnayos in Midas, is it going to fit with the Mizbeach in the center? It's not going to fit. Now we're going to have this calculation. Yeah, you ready? Okay, everything was easy till you. The other way of learning it is that Rabbi Yehuda is the Mishnayos of Tamid. And this is a proof. If you would tell me that Rabbi Yehuda is Midas, it's not going to work. And you see, as we're going to show you. So obviously, Tamid is Rabbi Yehuda, and Midas is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the way we want to explain it. Or we could say, the way we're learning it, the Steinsal's learning it in the first chapter in Rashi, is that we're trying to say that Midas is Rabbi Yehuda. And now we have a question. 1 second. Midas can't be Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. But we have a Mishnah in Midas. Kol azara ha'isa'irach me'u shmeina b'sheva, al-reichav me'u b'shleishim v'chamish. The actual azara itself was not a square; it was a rectangle. 187 length by 135 width. So the Ezras Nashim was 135 by 135. It was a square. You continued up that square into the azara. It was still 135 width. Didn't get wider, narrower than the Ezras Nashim, but the length was a rectangle. It was longer, so it was 187 long. So Mina Mizrach Lamayrav, when you look at the length, there's Meir Shmein B'Sheva. Makam Jesus Ragli Yisrael is Yud Aleph Amma. There's something called Ezras Yisrael. It was 11 amas when you entered in. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov said that was an amma higher, whatever. So that's 11 amas. Makam Jesus Ragli Kayanim, and then there was Ezras Kayanim. That was another 11 amas. Where are we holding? 22, right? Mizbeach, Shleishim V'Shtayim. We're at the Mizbeach now. Mizbeach is 32 by 32. So whichever way you look at it, it's 32, right? You ignore the ramp. So for this, because we're going the length of the Azara.
Where was that?
It was going down the side. Yeah, it was going down the side. But we're not looking at the length like that. We're looking at it like we're traveling to the Kodesh HaKadoshim and behind it. So it's 22 plus 32. Would that be 54, right?
Yeah.
Yud Aleph Amma, Mizbeach Shleishim V'Shtayim, Esrim V'Shtayim. The Heichel is Kuf Amma. Okay, now it's 154. That's the whole chamber from beginning to end, all the way down till the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That was because it was 60 and 40 or something. That's including the front room. It was 40, 20, and 20 maybe, something like that. No. What was the size of the heichal? Who said 60? Did he say 60?
I thought it was 60.
60 amas long.
No, I think 60 half you said it was 40.
But the doorway is 40. That doesn't mean height. Okay. The whole heichal is 100. And V'yud alaf ha'machir basic kapiros. Then there's 11 amas in the back. So we're 154, right? Plus another 11 is 165. And minadar 165. So we're missing something. And we need to get to 187.
You forgot the Ben Ulam Lamizbech. You didn't mention it.
Oh, so where was
Moshe, I was going to say the same thing.
Ben Olam Mizbech Esem Rishtayim. Esem Rishtayim takes us to 165 is 185, 187, 22 plus 155. Thank you. Okay. So that's we're holding at 187. Now we go the other way. Minadaraim Latzafain is Meir Shleishim V'chamish is 135. Now here's what we need to figure out. How much of it, how evenly placed is the Mizbeach in the middle of the room? That's what we're looking for. Now, if it's 135, so it's going to be 67 amas on one side, 67 and a half. On one side, 67 on the other side. That's going to. Am I up?
Numbers. I mean, are we talking about they have
No, then no. So yeah, so somewhere the Mizbeach itself is 32. So what I'm looking for is how much I have on each side. Now, if I divide it in half, it's going to be 67 on each side. So let's see. Hakevesh v'Mizbeach is Shishim v'Shtayim. The kevesh in the Mizbeach is 62. Yeah, 30 amas is the ram, and the Mizbeach itself is 32. So min Mizbeach ol tabayis, from the Mizbeach to the rings is ches amas. That's 8. Makam tabayis is esrim arba. The area of the rings itself is 24. So 8 and 24 is going to be 32. Min tabayis l'shulchanes, from the rings to the tables is arba is 4. So 32 is now 36, right? We're missing a piece of information here because it doesn't tell me the size of the shulchanes. Min shulchanes le'nanasim, in between the shulchanes and the places where they had posts where you could hang up the animal to skin it. That's also arba. Where are we holding? 36. Now we're holding by 40. Is that correct? Min ananas, but we're missing information because we don't know how big each one of these were. Min anasim l'kaisel, from those hooks to the wall, l'kaisel azar is another ches amas. It's 48. V'hamaisar bein hakevesh v'lakaisel l'makam hananasim. And then there was left over here. There was in between the ramp and the wall. We didn't say where it started. So if you add this all up, we had 62 plus 8 is 70. Plus 24.
How does the other come in there?
Is, let's see, 1 second, is plus 60, plus 24 and 70 is going to be 94. Then I have another 4 is 98. Then I have another 4 is 102.
That's not even including the ramp.
Then I have, including the ramp, then I have another 8, which is 110. And I'm missing now 25 amas. I don't know where it is. So it says that's divided somewhere in between other things that we didn't mention. The in between the wall and the beginning of the ramp, it doesn't tell us how much is there. Now, V'isal kadai tachmidas Rabbi Yehudahi. If you're going to say that this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Mizbeach be'emtza azar mimishkachasla, will you be able to divide this? That the Mizbeach is going to be in the center. You had all of these things that you said. You have the tables and the hooks and the rings and all of that. It's impossible to get that all into 67 into 67 and a half.
It's impossible to fit like 5 million people in basement.
So, Haruba de Mizbech B'Darim, the majority of the Mizbech needed to be on the south. Alalav Shmamina Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. We have to say that it's the Mishnah of Midas needs to be Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that says that it's not in the center. That says that it's not in the center. Shmamina. Okay, that's what we see from there.
Big
Okay.
block, big block. Really big.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.